Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Gamecast Radio Sports Talk. I'm Tim Kernan alongside Mike Freshwater. Mike, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing, brother?
Doing great. Doing great.
Well, it is a nice, cool morning here in Southwest Ohio. It really is starting to feel like fall. I love it.
It is. We mentioned last night during the broadcast that you could smell the campfires in the air, and it was a little bit nippy and just a tad bit, and I thought it was perfect for football, and a little bit more of the same here this morning.
Absolutely, Mike. Why don't we just go ahead and jump right in? But I first wanted to talk about pro football a little bit.
Yeah.
You and I, we've told the listeners many times that you're a Browns fan, I'm a Bengals fan. They, of course, opened up their seasons playing each other, and I pretty much thought that the Bengals were pathetic in that one. They could not do a thing.
That's a pretty good way of describing it. Joe Burrow's worst performance ever. They couldn't score a touchdown. If you'd have told me last week when we talked that the Bengals would not score a touchdown, I would say you were crazy. But the Browns have made some significant improvements on defense. Was played in Cleveland in some pretty bad weather, so all of that has to do with it. But they better bounce back tomorrow, because I know they started 0-2 last year and made it to the Super Bowl or to the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
I mean, but they can't go 0 and they can't start this season 0-2, because those two games are in the division, and that's a big difference. If you start 0-2 in your division, you got a problem. So, and a really small percentage of the teams that start 0-2 make it to the playoffs anyway. So I'm saying tomorrow's the must-win for the Bengals already.
I have to agree with you, and you made a great point. You're starting off the season with two divisional games. You lose the opener, and you absolutely have to win that second game. But getting back to the Browns a little bit, I was really impressed with the Browns, especially their defense. But I have to go back a couple of years. The Browns roster has been impressive for the last 3 or 4 years. They seem to struggle in mid-season and lose a couple games that they shouldn't. But do you feel like that they maybe have the coaching in place now to take that step forward?
Yeah, I think this is Stefanski's fourth year. He's got a new defensive coordinator who's making a big difference. Jim Schwartz, who's a proven entity as a coach in the NFL. They seem settled at quarterback with Deshaun Watson.
Massage
Watson, I almost said. And, they've added some pieces in the offseason, and, and they got a kicker finally. What a big sigh of relief that is. They traded for a kicker, a proven kicker from out in San Diego, and he looked good. So I think, all things being equal, and I know you want to mention it, they lost an offensive lineman for the season, but an Ohio State grad or draftee, DeJuan Johnson, came in and did a nice job at left tackle for Jack Conklin. And you just got to stay healthy, man. I mean, if you can stay healthy or just avoid a rash of injuries in any one given position group, you got a chance. And I think they have a chance. I don't think, obviously Cincinnati didn't look good. Pittsburgh did not look good. In fact, the Browns play them Monday night. The Ravens were okay. We'll see what they're made of tomorrow, I think. But I'm optimistic.
Yeah, you should
cautiously.
be. Yeah,
cautiously.
you should be. And you kind of veered into the injury bug a little bit there. I wanted to talk about that as well. But
Yeah.
before we do, there's a fine line between what you want to do in the preseason, and most of the Bengals starters did not play a whole lot in the preseason, and
Yeah, I know a lot was made about that, but
they have struggled.
I guess there's something to it. I don't know how much more the Browns players played in the preseason than the Bengals players. I don't know if it was significant or not. I doubt it was.
Yeah.
I think it's much mental as it is physical, but for whatever reason, they started slow last year and they're doing it again this year, and Bengals fans and critics, if you want to call them that, down here in this area seem to think the lack of participation in the preseason games by key Bengals is a big part of the problem. And let's face it, Joe Burrow didn't practice the whole preseason.
Yeah.
He didn't play at all, and that's probably the biggest part of that. But I hate preseason, and again, there's too
Well,
many
I
games.
know.
I mean, it's just back in the old days, they used to kind of gear up and treat the third of four preseason games as a real game. The starters, all the ones and twos, played a lot of the third game, and then they would take the fourth game off and use that to evaluate other players and let them recover a little bit. They don't even do that anymore. So I don't know. Maybe they'll do things or approach things a little bit differently next year. We'll see. But man, they got to win tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll certainly be interesting going forward. It's a strong division with the Ravens and the
Yes.
Browns getting better, and I think the Bengals will rebound, but it's going to be tough to win that division, and I think Pittsburgh is going to struggle this year.
It's the division, it's the conference, it's their schedule. The Bengals are playing a really tough schedule because of how much success they've had
Right.
and had last year, and the conference is ridiculously hard. The division's hard. 10 games might win that division this year. It might. But it's going to be interesting to see how things develop. And the Browns and Bengals don't play again until the very last game of the season, late December.
In Cincinnati.
And I hope to God that's a meaningful game, or the Browns have already clinched one or the other. How cool would it be if we got to that point and both teams look like they're going to make the playoffs? But
it'll be interesting.
yeah,
It's always fun.
long season, very interesting one. And as long as the Browns and Bengals are competitive, it just adds a little bit more spice to the conversation.
Absolutely. And you did talk a little bit about the injury to Jack Conklin, the offensive lineman that was lost in that game by the Browns. And, of course, another notable injury that everybody seems to be talking about constantly was the one to Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, please, I'm done talking about that.
Tearing his Achilles tendon.
I had enough of him leading up to that game, and I've had enough of him since. I'm sorry.
Just have one question, though,
Okay.
before we move on, and that is, do you think he's done, Mike?
No, I do not. I think
Okay.
he'll come back.
I do, too.
If someone used Kevin Garnett as the example at 30, in his mid to late 30s, he had the same injury and came back and was just as good as ever in the NBA, which is way more taxing than playing quarterback in the NFL as far as that injury goes. And I think he'll come back. The dude, I mean, he's got money at stake. I mean, a huge contract. He's going to want to collect on that. If he retires or quits or whatever, he wouldn't be able to do that. So I think he comes back. I think he'll be just as good as he ever has been, and he's got a couple more years in him. One injury you didn't mention that I think is important for us is the Ravens lost J.K. Dobbins. He also tore his Achilles heel in their game last week. Ohio State grad and their number one running back,
Yeah.
who was really playing well. That's a big loss for the Ravens.
That is.
And we're talking about the whole season, not just half a dozen games or less. So. We'll see who steps up for them in terms of running the ball on Sunday against Cincinnati. But J.K. Dobbins and the fact that the Ravens lost him for the season is a big deal.
Yeah. And notable games in the NFL this weekend. Of course, the Ravens at the Bengals. The Browns, of course, at the Steelers.
Mhm.
Dolphins at Patriots. I think the Jets at Cowboys was still going to be interesting, even though Rodgers won't play in that.
Yeah.
And, of course, the 49ers at the Rams. And, Mike, I thought the 49ers looked fantastic.
49ers look good, and the Rams kind of surprised everybody by winning the way they did. So, those are some good games on there. If you don't, I think you know this. I told you about this last year. I'm in a gigantic survivor pool. You pick a team every week to win, and just to win. And you can't pick them again after that if you get it right and you move on. I've got 4 entries in there. I won $7,000 last year.
Oh, my goodness.
Doing that. I made it to the very end. There's 4,000 entries, almost 4,000 entries, $20 a piece. I still have all 4 of mine alive, but a huge percentage. I'm going to say 30% of what's left. We lost 30% of the pool in the first week, believe it or not. So that's crazy. Yeah, but again, 30-some% I think have the Cowboys this week. And I'm a huge Jets fan this week. I would love to see that upset happen, although it's highly, highly unlikely. If the Jets can win against the Cowboys, they can knock out 30% of the pool in terms of what's left and it could look a lot easier to kind of advance and deep into the season if that can happen. So
Yeah.
I'll be watching that game and listening to it, whatever I got to do to keep track of it, and rooting for the Jets.
Well, it looks like Zach Wilson is going to get his chance again now with the
Yeah.
injury to Aaron Rodgers, so
Yeah.
that'll be interesting as well. Kind
Yeah.
of a little subplot there.
Well, just put Aaron Rodgers behind us, and we're done talking about him now. Finally, it's
Okay.
not us, but everybody. It's enough is enough.
Yeah.
It was Tom Brady, now then it was Aaron Rodgers, and I don't know who's going to be next. Maybe but Dak Prescott. They seem to spend a lot of time on him too.
Yeah,
but,
they do. So, Mike, we'll go into college football now, and one of the big headlines right now, of course, is the controversy going on with Mel Tucker, the head coach at Michigan State.
Also known as Mel Tugger.
Oh, well, okay. I think initial reports were that they were going to fire him, but I think that they have tapped the brakes on
Well,
that.
they could not fire him legally in Michigan. If something like that happens to a state employee, there has to be a due process investigation before they can actually fire him. But I think it is a foregone conclusion. Supposedly, he's cleaned out his office. He's making comments already. I think he knows, and everybody else does. The writing's on the wall. He's gone, and there's not a whole lot he can do about it. I think for him now, it's all about doing what he can to try to get as much of his money out of it as possible. Because he had a $90 million 10-year contract.
Yeah,
or some
it was
crazy thing.
Well, and if he did something wrong, certainly I support Michigan State getting rid of him. But I kind of felt like Michigan State had a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction on that. And I do you think it had a lot to do with
Yes.
Dr. Nassar, who was
Yes.
the
Yes.
he was the Olympic doctor, and he also worked
Yes.
at Michigan State.
It 100% does. Larry Nasser, he obviously kind of set the table there for what was going to happen going forward at Michigan State in situations like this. I don't think what Mel Tugger did is all that serious. He was estranged from his wife. He had a consensual relationship with a woman. And I still don't know today why she came out or how that news got out. Whatever. I know there was some information shared, text, phone calls, things like that.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't think there's enough there to really fire somebody. I know they have these show cause terms and conditions in their contract, and whether or not this is enough to quote unquote show cause to fire him. But I think it probably is, especially given the history of Michigan State with what's happened before. And I think he's as good as gone. And like I said, I think it's now just a question of him doing what he can within the legal framework up there to collect as much of that money as possible.
Yeah, just a very unfortunate situation. Certainly
Bad judgment.
strange
Bad
behavior,
judgment,
but I
yes.
agree with you. I don't know that it's a fireable offense, but
No.
they're doing the investigation, but I was not aware that he had been clearing his office out. So we'll certainly keep an eye on that and let everybody know what happens there. But just really unfortunate situation.
Yeah, something in the water up there in Michigan with the football coaches. Jim Harbaugh suspended still, and now looks like Mel Tucker's going to be gone. And oh, by the way, Mark D'Antonio's sliding back into the picture, going to be an assistant to the interim head coach, and just puts them in complete disarray and sets them back a couple years probably in terms of the program. And it's unfortunate for him. He's going to miss out on a lot of money. Stuff gets public, stuff like that gets public. It ruins your personal life and your professional life. And just another example of somebody at least using some bad judgment and making some bad decisions.
Absolutely. On the bright side, the notable games, I think, for college football this week, we got number 7 Penn State at Illinois, number 14 LSU at Mississippi State, number 11 Tennessee at Florida. Colorado State is at Colorado, who's number 18. And, of course, we will definitely talk a little bit about Notre Dame, Ohio State. But those I thought were at least the most notable games on the schedule, Mike. And before we kind of talk about this, I wanted to ask you, do you think, Deion Sanders is having a lot of success already
obviously.
Colorado.
Yep.
I don't. Do you think he's going to stay at Colorado? I think there's going to be a lot of suitors that are going to come calling for him.
Well, there's that, and there's the fact that he's got a couple, 2 or 3 sons there, and obviously the quarterback is there, and a Heisman Trophy candidate, and looking more and more like a top prospect for the NFL. So I think it's just a matter of time before he leaves Colorado potentially and goes on to a bigger program perhaps, or onto the NFL. I just don't see him. I give him 2 to 3 years tops. We'll see. But he's made them obviously very, very successful and put them back on the map. And he's flashy, and kids love that. And he's making news and probably stomp Colorado State today. And then I think they hook up with USC and Oregon over the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we'll find out what they're really made of then. But yeah, I mean, it's added a little bit of spice to college football conversation. And but personally, I don't think he'll be there long term.
I don't either. I think he's going to get some big-time offers, especially if they continue to be successful. But you're right. The next couple of weeks will certainly separate the wheat from the chaff, and we'll find out exactly how good Colorado is.
Yep, we will. We will. And, yeah.
Mike, Notre Dame and Ohio State are on a collision course. I think if both teams don't stub their toe today, which we certainly don't expect, you never know, though. That's why they play the game. But Ohio State plays Western Kentucky, and
the Hilltoppers, baby.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting game.
I think it will be. I mean, Ohio State's defense was tremendous. It has been tremendous so far, and that can win games for you. But this is going to be a little bit, tougher test than Youngstown State was last week, and interesting, I think, to see what happens there. And then Notre Dame is. Are they on the road today?
No, they're at home. They're against
right.
Central Michigan.
On the road last week, yeah. The Chippewas playing Central Michigan should be an easy one for the Fighting Irish. And then, of course, that sets up what's going to happen next Saturday, and let the fun begin.
Hartman last week was 15 to 24 for 286 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. I watched the game. I don't think it was his best day, but I think he really showed that he is a leader, and he's a captain on that team. And he, in years past, I don't know how closely the listeners follow Notre Dame football, but Notre Dame has not had an excellent quarterback in a very, very long time. And it's so refreshing as a Notre Dame fan. They do now. They've got a quarterback who's a leader and is not going to panic, and just an excellent quarterback.
Yeah, it looks very mature and experienced and level-headed. He said not his best game, probably not, but I mean, if you could throw for almost 300 yards and 4 touchdowns and throw no interceptions on the road in a Power 5 game, I think most coaches and most quarterbacks will do that. And I think he's showing improvement, and he's making a difference, and we'll see. He more to the game than just the quarterback, though, and I think their defense needs to step it up relatively soon. But they're playing well, and they'll win the day, I'm sure. And like I said, that'll set that game up for next week, and that's something we've all been looking forward to here in Ohio and in the Midwest. And yeah, like I said, let the fun begin, because that's going to be a big game for both in terms of the rankings and potential football playoffs.
Yeah, the Clemson game, I believe, was supposed to be on game day next week, but I have a feeling they're going to go to Notre Dame if Notre Dame and Ohio State take care of business.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the schedule to see who else is playing, but that seems like a very possible scenario, and it's always cool when that happens. I think our buddy Jeff Gilbert is going to that game. In fact, I know he is. And
yeah, we'll have Jeff on in a few minutes here.
Yep.
Mike McCord for Ohio State was named the official starter, I guess. They were still considering that a competition, but he has been named the starter now. He was 14 to 20 for 258 yards last week. They had a pretty easy 35-7 win. They got the receivers involved. You mentioned it just a few moments ago, but I think the defense is really stout for Ohio State. They're proving it.
Yeah.
Their offensive line, I think, is their weakness.
Right.
If you want to use weakness as
Yep.
a word, but
Yep.
they're going to improve, and I really look forward to that game next week. And there's going to be a lot of hype.
Yeah, the offensive line has to get better. There's no question that they have the weapons at running back. They're deep at wide receiver, obviously. They've been very, very vanilla in terms of their play calling these first couple of weeks, and probably will stay pretty plain today. And then hopefully next week they can open the playbook up a little bit. They've got to figure out ways to get these wide receivers the ball in space a little bit more. Cord, they're going to, most of what they do with him is going to be relatively high percentage, low risk kind of passing, that kind of a passing game. They did go deep a few times last week, but when you got a guy like Marvin Harrison on your team, the kid has to touch the ball 8 to 10 times a game, and hopefully they've got some tricks up their sleeve and things that they can roll out next week to help with that. But you just got to keep going out there, and I'm sure that they stress every week in practice, and of course in the games that just get better every day. Just keep getting better, and if you do that, the rest will take care of itself.
So we will head into a little bit of high school football here, and we'll get Jeff on here in a few minutes. But Mike, you and I, of course, we call the Alter High School football games. We called the Alter Bellbrook game last night.
Yep.
Sloppy game, I thought. I thought both teams looked good in certain sequences of that game, but they both turned the ball over. Neither team really seemed like they wanted to take control of the game, but Alder escapes with the win, and I think it was 2013 final.
Yep.
But again, yeah, both teams looked pretty good in certain portions of that game, but Alter really has the turnover bug.
Yeah, both defenses played really well, or both offenses did not. Yeah, however you want to look at that. But I think both defenses played really well. Alter led 14-3 at halftime. Bellbrook kicked a field goal in the last few seconds of the first half. So 14-3 at halftime, and then like last Friday against Trotwood, Bellbrook kind of got back into it in the second half. Alder didn't score there again until later in the game. Last night had a punt or a kickoff return, a long kickoff return, called back because of a hold, which I think everybody needs to see the film on that one and decide whether that was legit or not. And Bellbrook dropped a wide open deep ball that hit this kid in stride. He had 10 yards of separation, 40 or 50 yards of green AstroTurf, artificial turf in front of him to run it into the end zone, but could not hold on. I mean, a legit drop. He hit his hands. He kind of bobbled it a little bit, kind of thought he had it for a second, and then he bobbled it again, and then it fell to the ground. And that would have made things a lot more different had they been able to connect on that one, Tim. But Alder hung on and won, and that's all that matters. Nice playoff points. Bellbrook's going to win their share of games this year. And, Alter needed it. They definitely needed a nice outing like that in terms of ultimately winning. And, both teams will move on to league play starting next week, and it's a whole new season.
Yeah, I was impressed with Bellbrook's quarterback, Benitez. He ran the show really well for the Golden Eagles, and throws a nice ball. And you mentioned it. He hit a couple times, hit his receivers in stride, in the hands, and they weren't able to gather it in. But I thought he played well enough to get the win.
He did. He threw the ball nicely. They ran the ball better in the second half, made some adjustments, and teams like to run the ball to the right against Alter's defense for some reason.
And it seems to be successful.
Trotwood did it. Bellbrook did it again last night, and it seems to work. And I'm not sure why. I'm going to have to get with a coach or two and find that one out. But a good high school football game on a clear Friday night. It was a homecoming for Alder, so even more important that they won.
Well, let's go ahead and bring in Jeff Gilbert, our high school guru and Ohio State insider. Jeff, are you with us this morning? Are you there, Jeff? Well, maybe Jeff Fell asleep.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there
Oh,
he
there
is.
he is.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Did you get your morning
Right.
coffee yet there, Jeff? Because I'm still working.
I'm sipping it, man. I'm sipping this coffee, and I had to mute, so I was like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, no
on.
problem. Been there, done that. Where were you last night?
Where I was in Tip City, Ohio.
Ah,
What game were you covering?
your
up there?
favorite, one of your favorite places.
Oh, always, always. I grew up in the shadow. I grew up in the Carlisle, so
Oh,
we had
okay.
friends.
Yeah.
We had friends in Tip City, and we were there a lot. And one of my friends growing up, he was a wrestler at Tip, and so. But anyway, they played Troy, and they beat Troy 13-12.
That's a nice win for them.
What would I think is considered, most people would consider an upset.
Yeah.
Troy was unbeaten. There was supposed to be, everybody saw Troy and Xenia on a battle of unbeaten collision course in 2 weeks, and then they both got beat last
They both
night.
lost. Right, right.
So Xenia got knocked off by Butler. So the MDL is sort of up for grabs, but the Tip will have to play Xenia in the last game of the season.
Wow.
And so that'll be, that it's probably going to come down to that now. It could, but to say that is like talking about the AFC North. Who knows? They might, Tip could get knocked off by somebody, of course. But I think they've beaten Butler, they've beaten Troy, and they got Xenia out there, and that's definitely the toughest game they have left. So
Tip's always good. I know you don't, and I don't particularly like the press box situation up there, but I think it's a really cool kind of a high school football setting up there in that park. Parking's tough, and getting out of there isn't easy, but it's an interesting place to go cover a game, is it not?
it is. It is. It's tight. The fence is right along the back of the end zone.
Right.
They've done some renovations there. There's a newer press box, but I didn't even go up to it because it was every seat. I could look up there when I got there, and every seat was full.
Yeah.
They built a new concession stand behind the stands, nice big stone brick building,
Oh, cool.
restrooms.
Great night to be outside, though, unlike last Thursday out there at Xenia.
A little chilly.
Yeah,
A little
it was.
But I should have had long sleeves. I did wear long pants, but I should have had long sleeves. So
Yeah.
it was a. You guys said you had a sloppy game. This one was. I mean, Tip got the ball like almost like it's a 22 and the 11 early in the game and couldn't punch it in. Troy had two big plays by their good running back called back on the same drive that had them in the red zone, so they didn't score on that drive. Tip threw 3 interceptions and still won. It was just
That is sloppy.
Either team could have won by 2 touchdowns, and Troy scored at the start of the fourth quarter and went for 2 and got stopped inside the 1, and then they couldn't mount anything after that. And then Tip had the ball down in the red zone. I get to 15 late, and their best player, Kale Liete, their running back, it was a 1-point game. There's about a minute and a half to go, and they gave him the ball. It was a kind of a long injury timeout, and Troy decided they were going to let him score so they could get the ball back.
Oh, okay.
So they were out. There was no other way. They're up a point, so they figured let him score. Maybe they kick the extra point or miss it. We're down 7 or 8, and we get the ball back, and we got a chance. And they decided to let him score, and he's smart enough to go down at the 1. So he goes down at the 1,
Nice.
and then they kneel it out. They kneel it out.
Outstanding. Boy, that's
That's,
counter move there. A nice decision and smart move, and
Yeah, that's
very
maturity.
unselfish play by
Yeah.
that kid.
It was, and they kind of thought that might happen, and they sort of bumped it along, trying to. They should have pushed him in the end zone, is what they should have done. But
Right, carried him in.
pick him up, carry him in the end zone would have been a good idea, but they didn't. They didn't expect him to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was like, that's what I'm going to do. So I wrote a lot about that I wrote that for Press Buzz today, and I wrote it for Dayton too. But I went into a lot of more detail in the Press Buzz story about it because I had more room. But it was, it was an interesting thing. And I saw Pitt lose to Bellbrook start the year; they couldn't get a first down. Um, but they've come a long way, and they're Division III. They got a chance to do something in the playoffs now. I see from what I saw last night. It's a much better team than it was week one.
Jeff,
Um,
excuse
so
me, Jeff. I was
yeah,
just going to say we're about 5 weeks in, of course, now in high school football. Have any players, any high school players, come to the forefront that you think are getting some recruiting, some colleges interested in them now as we've progressed through the season?
well, who had? So you're asking who through 5 weeks has sort of jumped up
Yeah,
and they got people's attention. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could guess probably that there are some. I think as far as Division I, you look at major college stuff, those kids are kind of already known.
true.
There's probably some sophomores that are getting attention. Um, Northmont has a sophomore DB um, by the name of Santana Keys that Coach Rory told me is a D1 recruit now. Because I wrote some stuff, wrote a piece this week on Northmont's Division I recruit. And just sort of mentioned him at the end because he's too young to get offers and so forth, and they're not ranking kids in the 10th grade yet. So, but he told me he is a D1 recruit. So that's the only like young guy I'm definitely aware of. Northmont's got the Doria Brew and Cedric Works who are juniors. Works is a outside linebacker, DN type of kid. He's probably 6'5", 225, and they got Dorian Brew, who's a cornerback who probably runs a 4.4. Ran a 10.7 in track last year in the 100. He can fly, and he's big. He's 6'2". I mean, those kids, Brew is already a 5-star in the junior class, and he's got every offer you want from Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan, Tennessee, Florida State, people like that. He's probably got close to 30 offers. Works is kind of a 3-star right now, but he's the ascender probably. More to your question, he's the kid that I think has a chance to really ascend this year. And Ohio State invited him over to watch their game last week, like as an unofficial visit.
Okay.
And so the kid who could be a 4-star sometime between now and next summer, he can rise to that level. I talked to all those kids. I went over there last week, not this week, but the week before. They wrote something about them going into the Fairmont game, and then I did another second story this week on just the recruiting angles with those kids. So that's the one that jumps out to me as far as a kid who could really rise. And there will be others that I don't know about yet.
Yeah.
Young kids, I think I love the Armani Rogers from Trotwood, who you saw, the number 2, the wide receiver.
Very good.
He's not very big,
No.
which hurts, but he can play.
He can fly too. He's got very good speed.
They got a freshman who we didn't really see in that game. And I don't know if he was hurt or if he was on the field and just didn't catch anything. He's the kid that ran a kickoff back for a touchdown earlier in the year. That was a big play for them. So those are the kids that I kind of know about. I'm sure there's others, but that's about all I got on that.
Yeah, speaking of Trotwood, they unfortunately were not able to complete their game last night down at Withrow. A fight broke out after a score. Withrow was up 21-7 in the third quarter, and both sidelines cleared. Excuse me. And the referees called the game, and Withrow's declared the winner. My question is, when that happens in basketball, kids are suspended. Players, coaches. what do they do? I mean, do they suspend kids in waves? Can this end up costing Trotwood?
I don't know. I hadn't heard that yet.
Yeah, with about
Uh,
I, I think 6 or 7 minutes left in the third quarter, I think there was a interception return for a touchdown or something like that. They were at Withrow, who's pretty good, and or yeah, Withrow, and I saw the play itself on Twitter last night, but then they didn't have much more of any video after that. But it's something to
I
look
looked.
into because you know, if they have this similar rules, and I'm sure they do for football that they do for basketball, you leave the bench like that, you're in big trouble. And if their
Yeah.
whole team left the sideline, I mean that could cost Trotwood significantly. They've got their next 4 out of their next 5 games are Dayton City League teams, and those are games that they on paper would win easily. But if they're missing half their team, or you know, a bunch of
Yeah.
really good players because of what happened last night, that could cost them.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, you know who Jared Luganville is?
Yes, he was the one that was tweeting. He was there last night.
So,
Is he
he
related to
was.
Tom by any chance?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't know.
yeah.
I know Jared just a little bit. I haven't run into him in the game yet this year. Um, so he says that um, it was in the third quarter. Somebody responded to that tweet saying, "Sad how the Trotwood player was jumped by 3 to 4 players on the other team." So don't know if that is exactly what happened, but that's the view of
Oh boy.
someone who was in the game. And if that happened, that's you know, guys are going to jump to their teammates' defense. You got
Yes.
to keep it, but still, that's
OHSA
that
is going to have fun with that one if
might,
everybody left the sidelines.
they might. I don't know the rule on that. I'm glad you brought that up. That's something to look into, find out
And
about.
like I said, that could hurt Trotwood in terms of their pursuit of the playoffs. They lost that game. They've got some, like I said, dead cinch sure wins coming up when they play the City League teams.
That'll be
But if they
interesting.
do it with, you know, half the team or a lot of other better players missing, that could change their chances.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with all of that, how that shakes out. But Jeff, we
Yeah.
know that you're going to be covering the Western Kentucky game today against Ohio State. Also, you know, of course, we were talking about the Notre Dame Central Michigan game. I believe you're going up to that game next week. What are you predicting in that game? Both of them have games today that they're certainly expected to win, but do you see any problems with either team looking past their opponents today, heading into that one next week?
Well, Ohio State better not look bad. I just tell you that. I don't know. You know, I haven't watched Notre Dame, obviously, like you have. I've seen some highlights. But maybe, what's Central Michigan? Are they any good? I don't even know.
I don't know the record.
They're
I mean, they have been, but
They won last week. I think they beat New Hampshire. I think it was,
Hampshire has football.
but that was it was like a
Play.
shootout. They lost to Michigan State. They were giving Michigan State a fairly good
New
game in
Hampshire?
the first half.
Really?
But yeah, I mean, I fully expect Notre Dame to take care of business. But
Well,
You know,
team
it's one
like
of those
a
scary
team like
weeks.
Central Michigan goes into a place like Notre Dame. That's pretty awe-inspiring, I would think, right from the beginning. But yeah, it could be a matchup issue for Notre Dame in terms of what Central Michigan does. I don't know either. I don't know the record or what they look like. I don't even know the spread. It's got to be significant.
Yeah, the Irish are going to go 10-0 against the MAC all time today.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So
New Hampshire has football, man. You didn't know that?
no.
That's,
Well,
they've been an FCS power. That's where Ryan Day played.
That's correct. You're right. I forgot about that. He was a quarterback in New Hampshire, and I'm pretty good with nicknames. I have no idea what their nicknames are. It is.
The New Hampshire. No, I don't. No, I don't either. I don't either. I will tell you this. I just looked this up while we were talking. Trotwood is still third, despite last night, they're still third in the region in the computer rankings. Right
Okay.
now. So,
Okay.
but it's worth. Now the games they're going to play aren't going to help them in their points, but the games they've played so far, despite being 3-2, are why they're third.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
in front
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to Ohio State.
Yeah. I think it's a legit thing to ask. Will either one of those teams be looking ahead? Not just in terms of, I don't think in terms of them losing, but in terms of them maybe
Right.
not playing their best today and maybe not covering, quote unquote. But they're both home games. They're both playing, what are they, mid majors, I guess you'd call them. So,
Well, and it's almost impossible not to look ahead with a game on like that on the horizon for both teams.
Yeah.
It's going to be a top 10 match.
I kind of agree with Jeff in as much as it's got to be. I would see less. You think less of a concern for Ohio State and the coaching staff because I don't think they've played up to their expectations. I think their message has got to be: look, you can't be looking ahead to a game like that. You're not good enough
Yeah,
yet,
absolutely.
right? I mean,
Coach speak, right?
and,
Mike?
yeah, Notre Dame's probably played up to expectations and probably legitimately can look ahead, but I don't think Ohio State's in that position. I would think that would be the message for the coaches to the players this week at practice.
Jeff, when are you going up there next week?
Probably this time of the day.
Okay, so you'll be heading up there early Saturday morning. Just getting ahead of ourselves a little bit probably here, but would you be willing to join us next week?
Well, I don't know what time we're leaving yet, so what time are you get? Whatever,
Probably, obviously we're going a little bit earlier today because I have something in Cincinnati, but it would probably be the same
Yeah,
time.
you'll be on the road, I would think. What time is that game?
Well, it's a 5-hour or 4.5-hour drive.
It's a 7:30 game, but I know that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So we'll see what time we leave. I've been up that way a lot. So my wife is from there. So I've been up there a number of times. It's been years. I mean, a long time ago I was up there a lot. I haven't been up there I can't remember the last time I was in South Bend. She's from Mishawaka, but I can't remember the last time I've been up there. So it's been a long time. But I would say Ohio State can't afford to look ahead. The key thing to watch today is their pass defense on the defensive side. Western Kentucky throws it as much or more than anybody else in college football.
Interesting.
They had the most passing yards in the nation last year. They're going to spread it out. They're going to run 4 and 5 wide. They're going to throw it on the edge. They're going to try to go deep. They're going to do it all. And now they don't have the talent, obviously, level of some teams that Ohio State's going to play starting next week. But if you're not ready for it, you can get surprised. And so we're going to see if Jim Knowles is adjusting to not going to go up the big plays. We're going to just trust our guys more, and I don't have to try to make things happen with my defense like I did other places. I can let them play. If that is actually working and the guys get it and understand how to do what they're supposed to do, then Western Kentucky will struggle to do much. If they hit some big plays, it's only going to take one big play for them to hit, and everybody's going to be freaking out. So that's just an interesting thing to watch.
Yeah, I like that. I like the fact they're getting that exposure to a team like that today. That should be interesting.
Yeah, it's perfectly timed for them to have that before they go face, Sam Hartman, who, my gosh, you think Sam Hartman won 2 Heisman trophies? I've heard about him. So, yeah.
Hey, Jeff, it's been a long time since we've had a quarterback. Come on.
Yeah, the last one you had sat at the NFL draft all day wondering if he's going to get picked. So that's the last quarterback you had.
It has been a while. I would go back to Jimmy Clausen, and if you don't even agree with me on Jimmy Clausen, it's Brady Quinn.
I say Jimmy Clausen. I've heard that name, but I don't. But Jimmy Clausen's probably the last guy you thought could win you a game. But Brady Quinn's probably the last guy that would considered elite. You know.
Yeah, I think Clausen was a great quarterback. He just didn't have much around him, but I would agree. I think Quinn was probably the best QB they've had since Hartman. We'll see how Hartman finishes out. He started off well, and he's a great leader. Seems very comfortable. He's able to create on his own when the play isn't going as planned. But you know, I think both teams take care of business today, and we're just going to have a lot of hype next week, and
Notre Dame's
it's going to be fun.
And Notre Dame's minus 34 and Ohio State's minus 30 today at home against those teams. And, that's something that, the players know. And, but sounds like Notre Dame has a little bit easier of a path to win today and avoid a upset alert than Ohio State does, a little bit anyways.
The edge I'll give Notre Dame going right now is the running game. Not because I think, and that has nothing to do with the running backs. It has everything to do with the line play.
Yeah.
And that's if Notre Dame, you know how it is. If Notre Dame can run the ball and stop the run next week,
Yeah.
they'll have a great chance to win.
Yep.
If Ohio State can level that playing field, then I think Ohio State will win. But if Notre Dame can control the line of scrimmage both ways, then they're going to be really hard to beat.
It should be fun. I'm jealous that you're going to the game, Jeff, but you and I can maybe hook up this week, and if there is a way that you could join us next week and maybe give us a little preview of the game, that'd be great. If not, we totally understand, but certainly appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, I'll see what my morning looks like when we're leaving and so forth and everything I got going on. But I think it most likely would work out to do that. So.
All right, Jeff. We really appreciate you joining us a little earlier this morning than expected. Have a great day. Enjoy the Ohio State game, and we'll talk to you soon. Appreciate it.
All right. I will do that, and go Red, because I'm pulling for them, too.
Yeah. They won last night. I stayed up and watched the end of that one, and hopefully they can hang in there.
Yeah.
So. All right, Jeff.
Guys.
Have
Thanks,
a great
Jeff.
day.
Good luck.
Talk to you soon.
See you.
And that was Jeff Gilbert. He is the high school guru here in town, and he also covers Ohio State at PressPros.com. Always great to get Jeff's feedback, Mike. And that is bringing us to the portion of the show, Mike, when we do our helmet stickers from last week.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you and I really haven't talked about this, so we may pick the same player, but I'm going to go with Quinn Ewers from Texas. He was 24 of 38 for 349 yards, 3 TDs, no interceptions against Alabama. Not only do I think his stats were impressive, but I watched that game, and I just thought he was so calm, cool, and collected the entire game. Never got rattled, and he led Texas over Alabama.
He looks really good, and how much better would Ohio State be today had they been able to keep him.
They've lost some very good quarterbacks.
Yeah, no kidding. And he's another one. He's a top pro prospect. He's got a chance of getting drafted probably number 2 as a quarterback next season behind the kid from USC. But I think, yes. I'm going to go with and put my disdain for Michigan aside for a moment. And I'm going to take
like a true Ohio State fan.
And I do have disdain for them. But I'm going to take J.J. McCarthy. Last week, the Wolverines beat up on UNLV 35-7. He had what was basically pedestrian stats, 22 of 25 for 278 yards and 2 touchdown passes. But what was really cool about that game was that he grew up with a kid and went to high school with the guy, best friends, who was a tight end at UNLV, and his number was 47. And they had planned on this game and playing against each other. But unfortunately, the UNLV kid passed away with a heart condition just recently. I think in the spring or the summer, passed away from a heart condition. So J.J. McCarthy went out there and wrote number 47 on his wrist tape, and went out there and with sooner or later, I'm trying to think of the kid's name. Ryan Keeler was the kid's name who passed away very unfortunately at a very young age, and who was J.J. McCarthy's best friend. But McCarthy wrote 47 on his tape,
Yeah.
wrist tape, and then threw a 47-yard touchdown pass.
Oh, that's cool.
So
Yeah.
that was a really emotional day for him and a cool thing for him. And again, something that you got to look past rivalries and disdain for and stuff like that. But he had a good game against UNLV and came through for his buddy, and nice story. But now they can go back to sucking and losing, hopefully sooner or later.
In a time when there's always the negative, it's always great to get a good story.
Yeah, another story about a young athlete having a heart condition or a heart issue and passing away. There's just way too many of them, and just a very, very sad story, but a nice gesture and something I'm sure J.J. McCarthy will remember for a long time, if not forever.
Absolutely. And Mike, before we part ways here, pro and college, as far as our picks go, you went 2-1 last week. I went 1-2 in the pros, and cumulatively over the 2 weeks of college football, you are 2-3 and I'm 3-2. So not too bad, but I thought we did pretty well last week. Although the Bengals really disappointed me, but I thought we would a couple of games this week.
Yeah,
if you
let's do it.
I thought the Penn State Illinois game would be an interesting one.
Right.
Maybe Tennessee and Florida.
Yeah.
And maybe those would be our two for college.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on upset alert. I'm going to go with Illinois in this one. I don't know what the line is on that one, but I think Penn State's favored by quite a few.
Yeah, no, that's a good pick. I don't blame you for that one. I think Illinois.
I think they're going to cover.
Yeah, I think Illinois will give them trouble. It's in Illinois or at Illinois. I think Penn State is traveling today. But I think Penn State will hang on and win, so I'll take Penn State. In the other game, I'm all Tennessee all day. I don't think Florida has a chance in that game, and I think the Vols will win and probably cover in that game and knock Florida down another notch.
Okay, I'm actually going to go with Florida.
All right.
And there was always a famous saying that Steve Spurrier used to say back in the day with the SEC, that
the old ball coach.
That kind of second tier bowl was the Citrus Bowl.
Yeah.
And Steve Spurrier always used to say you can't spell citrus without UT. So
it's a rivalry, a little bit of a rivalry.
And I have a cousin who went to Florida, so I'm going to go with Florida for fun.
I feel like Tennessee's on the come and Florida not so much, and I just feel like Tennessee's going to win that one and probably win it easily. But that's why you play the game.
Absolutely, and I thought maybe we'd pick 3 games in the pro.
Yeah.
Ravens, Bengals, Jets, Cowboys, and 49ers, Rams.
Yeah, well, I'm going to take the Bengals only because they have to win. They're 3-point favorites at home or something like that, which is basically the home field advantage. The Ravens lost J.K. Dobbins. They've got to do something to running back. Bengals have to win. They just absolutely have to win.
They do.
I can't see them losing that game. Kind of hoping for a Bengal win just because it'll give the Ravens their first loss, and it'll be a conference loss for them. What say you on that one?
I'm going to go with the Bengals.
Yeah.
My heart just goes with the Bengals.
Yeah.
And they absolutely have to win.
Absolutely have to win.
In the Jets-Cowboys game, Mike, I think I will go with the Jets and the points.
That's a lot of points.
It is a lot of points, and I don't know. I just have a feeling. I think the Cowboys will definitely win, but I think the Jets.
It's 10.5. It's a big. In fact, the Cowboys are the biggest favorite publicly of the weekend in terms of them winning and covering. But I don't think the Jets. I mean, their defense is good, but I just don't see the Jets doing much of anything. Remember, they won last week because they returned a punt in overtime.
Yeah.
They're going to need a special teams or a defense touchdown or two, I think, to beat Dallas, and I don't think there's any way they're going to be able to do that. I like Dallas in that game. I hope the Jets win, but I like Dallas.
All right, 49ers, Rams. I'll give you first choice.
Oh, 49ers all day. The Rams did win last week and surprised a lot of people. But I think the 49ers are really, really good. I mean, they absolutely put it to Pittsburgh. 30-0, I think, was that score.
Their defense
Exposed Kenny Pickett, and Brock Purdy seems to be, although he's Mr. Irrelevant, seems to be the man out in San Francisco, and I don't think that would be a big upset, in my opinion, if the Rams were able to knock the 49ers off.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the 49ers as well. So you and I agree on 2 and differ on 1. So we'll see what happens in that one. But certainly the pros just getting underway, and you know it takes a couple weeks for the good and the bad to shake out. But week 2.
Week 2 of the NFL, week 3 of college, and week 5 is in the books for high school football. And it's just unbelievable how fast time flies.
Absolutely.
Life is like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it goes. That's my new expression because
I've never heard that one. That's a good one.
I'm getting closer to the end, so it's going fast for me.
Well, Mike, I appreciate you coming here a little bit early this morning. Enjoyed
Absolutely.
the conversation. Always have a great time talking with you. And folks, thanks for joining us. Hey, do us a favor on your way out. Subscribe to the channel and like this video. We'd really appreciate it. And enjoy the football this weekend. And we'll talk to you next week. Thanks for joining us on
Thank you, everybody.
Gamecast Radio
Have
Sports
a
Talk.
great weekend, everybody.